morning.
Very happy Friday morning to you. It's nice to have you with us here today for What's New.
It certainly is. We're going to have a very interesting day. I hope you'll take the time to just sit down in front of the television. If you have children, this is a show that they should particularly enjoy. We will meet a lot of very interesting creatures and I think learn a lot about them.
We will, for a fact. Barbara Walker has been with us in the past, and she returns today and has brought along some of her feathered friends.
She has indeed. Birds of prey.
Chef Meadows, of course, is in the kitchen, and today the chef is preparing meatballs in macaroni ring.
Ooh, I love anything with
like
macaroni
it?
in it. Anything. I would eat tabletops with macaroni.
Of course, Gil Amundsen reports news. Lana Moso as well with Figure Fitness on What's New.
Yes, and if you keep talking for just a moment, I'll go back and meet Barb, and then you come and join us, will you?
Okay, I certainly shall. Chef Meadows was pointing out to me today that this is a great way to make an economical meal and one that truly is delicious. I hope we have maybe more success feeding your wares today to birds of prey than we did with the goat yesterday, Chef. We'll see what happens there. Nancy, you're all set back there. Is that true?
Yes, we sure are, Warren. I love the look on this bird's face. I don't know if they can even get it yet, but he kind of looks at me, Barb, as though, what on earth are you doing? What is this?
That's probably what he thinks. This is a great horned owl. It's one of the largest owls. In fact, it is the largest owl that we have as a native resident of Minnesota.
Take a look at his feet, and I know they're in on a pretty close shot with the camera now. The size of his legs. With a bird of prey, the beak is not your major concern. It is the foot.
That's right. Their feet are their killing weapons. And because of the fact that they do kill for their living, birds of prey are the most misunderstood group of birds. They are the killers of the bird world, and there are many, many different kinds of birds of prey. Owls, hawks, eagles, and falcons are the 4 different groups.
Now, this particular bird, Bubo, here, Warren, I've got a microphone for you. Bubo is permanently crippled, and I know that you have often been part of educational efforts to get wild creatures back into the wild. You feel strongly that a wild animal belongs in the wild.
Oh, that's definitely true. The only reason I have these birds is because there is something wrong that they can't go free again. Bubo was found in a park right in the middle of Minneapolis when he was just a baby. He was only 6 weeks old. His right wing was broken and almost healed, and there was nothing surgically that could be done. He never has been able to fly. He doesn't know how to fly.
It is interesting, though, Bob, as we were getting set up in the studio here, that Bubo decided to move from one perch to another and did so without any real problem. But it's a relative short distance, isn't it?
Right. He can, well, the power in his legs can carry him quite a ways, a lot further than you'd think. But actually, flight itself is impossible for him.
I'm sure they can hear it home. Touch him again. Now listen, for a big bird, listen to that little sound.
He also hisses just like a cat when he wants to, too.
Ooh.
Now, I know how to do this. I've played with him a lot in the last 4 years. He's 4.5 years old, and he could live to be 25 or 30 if I take good care of him. Another point I would like to mention is these are not pets. They are protected by law. All birds of prey are by the federal and state governments. So I have to have a permit to keep him. Even though he can't go free again, I have to have a permit on paper that makes it legal for me to have it.
What is the penalty for either keeping or killing one of these?
Well, it depends on the type of bird. There are more protected or there are more endangered types of birds of prey. The peregrine falcon, the eagles, some of the other types of hawks. Some of them their populations are so low that there's a stiffer penalty, sometimes imprisonment. Especially with eagles, yes.
I'm going to go over here, and why don't we all follow? Now, this little guy is a beautiful, beautiful hawk, and somehow whenever you think of hawks, you always think of large. Well, Keeley is a sparrowhawk, and he's very small.
Right, but he's not really a hawk either. He's a member of the falcon family of birds, and the falcons are the swiftest and most agile flyers of the birds of prey. He's the smallest falcon in North America.
We've got a good shot of him now. Now, Keeley has gone for 5 or 6 years to different schools and has allowed people to pick him up. Come on, Keeley, there you go.
He's very, very tolerant. It took quite a long time for him to calm down. He was an adult bird when he was injured, and the University of Minnesota has a rehabilitation center that we're going to be seeing some slides of the work that they're doing. But they did surgery on his right wing, which was broken, and it didn't heal quite properly. Unfortunately, surgery isn't always a miracle, so he couldn't go free again.
Because if he has to fly to hunt, and he can't fly, he would die.
They do a lot of hovering and flying to find their food.
You know, one of the things we're going to direct ourselves to in the next segment is the fact that a lot of protected birds, birds of prey, are injured in hunting season. Often they are shot accidentally, sometimes intentionally, but more often accidentally. And people are afraid to pick them up, to help them, to take them to help, because they know they're endangered, they know they're protected, and they think they're going to get in trouble, when in fact the authorities want to help the animal.
That's right. There are facilities and people that can do a lot of work to get them back into the wild, and the thing they care about most is getting the birds in for treatment as fast as possible.
Let's go over here quickly before we run out of time. And this little bird has not been handled a great deal, Barb. He's under treatment at the university right now.
That's right. This is a broad-winged hawk. He's a member of the soaring family of hawks, the buteos. There are two kinds of hawks, the soaring family and the accipiters, which live in the woods and do their hunting in the woods. And he's one of the smaller members of the soaring hawks, related to the red-tailed hawk, which is the largest, and we'll see one of them a little bit later in the show. This bird is one of the few that migrates in groups. They're more gregarious than a lot of the other hawks, and they migrate many at a time. A lot of them are already gone. He had a very badly injured wing and can't be set free again. He's a permanent resident in captivity, too.
He's just beautiful. We are going to take a look in a moment at some slides and find out what happens to many of these birds and how you can help them should you come across one, Warren.
Thanks, Nance. We do have so much more ahead for you on What's New, so please stay with us. We'll be right back. Until very recently, our guest, Barbara Walker, has been educational director with the Minneapolis Humane Society. And as a matter of fact, congratulations and best wishes on your new effort. I understand you're going to be a freelancer here.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to be using these birds of prey and taking them out to the schools and giving programs on the birds.
And Girl Scout clubs and Boy Scout clubs and ladies clubs and churches. If you're watching today, I'll give you Barb's phone number later. Get a pencil and paper. You can call her if you would like her to visit your organization.
You also have some slides that you indicated we were going to show people now.
Most of them are birds that have been injured in one way or another and have been cared for at the University of Minnesota. Dr. Pat Reddick and Dr. Gary Duke run the facility at the university.
Look at this bird.
And this is one of the most spectacular birds I've ever handled. It was a golden eagle that they had at the university for 2 years, in fact, that had been shot originally in Wisconsin. And it took a long time to rehabilitate him, but he was eventually released back into the wild again.
Of course, with birds like this, they want to get them back into the wild because they're so hoping they will continue to propagate.
That's right.
What is the probability of their making it once they're released?
Very good, especially with adult birds that have already learned to hunt. It's a little more of a problem with juvenile birds. This is Bubo. It's a classic threat gesture of especially a great horned owl. All these birds go through different gestures that are threatening to make you go away. And this is Bubo's way of saying, get out of here. And it's also an example of how dangerous they can be. They're not anything to play around with. This doesn't look like much in this picture, but it is a peregrine falcon, which has been endangered for quite some time due to DDT poisoning.
Yes.
And it was one that had been kept by some people for 6 weeks, and they didn't know they had a peregrine falcon. They found it with a broken wing. And the next slide shows what it looked like a few weeks after the university had it. One of the major things that is so important is to get these birds in for treatment very fast. Now, that broken wing already was healed by the time the university got it. And unfortunately, it had to be sent to a breeding project. Hopefully, its young will go back to the wild, but this one couldn't be released again because it didn't have surgery soon enough.
Mark, can you explain the difference for us between falcons and hawks or some of the other birds of prey we're talking about?
They have different ways of hunting. Their maneuverability is different.
Is one more agile than the other?
The falcons are the swiftest flying birds, and their hunting techniques are a little bit different. They're all basically predatory birds, though. They're just categorized differently because of the differences in what they do. This x-ray is of a bald eagle that came from Jamestown, North Dakota, and as you can see, there are white spots all over the x-ray. Those are pellets from a shotgun, and you can tell where the pellets broke bones, and there's one lodged at the base of the neck. They had this bird at the university for 6 weeks trying to treat it. The next slide will show what he looked like. He was an adult bald eagle, at least 5 years old, because they don't have their white heads and white tails until they're that old. And he was extremely pathetic. It was one of the saddest things I've come in contact with in injured birds.
He didn't make it. He's one that didn't
No, he was
make
put to sleep, kindly put to sleep, because he was suffering and there was nothing they could do for him.
We keep referring to the University of Minnesota. Dr. Pat Rettig over there is the man to take one of these birds to. Get it to the university.
Right away. This is an example of how badly injured a wing can be, but there are a lot of ways that they can surgically correct injuries that look pretty bad. The next slide shows a picture of another x-ray of a pin, a surgical pin, into the bone so that it keeps it from moving until it heals. And it's amazing what they can do surgically to correct these injuries. But again, they need to do the work fast. This snowy owl was at the university for, it's a female. The females are much darker. Most people think of the snowy as all white, and there's another picture of a male. But she was found floating down the Mississippi River on a log, and some people got into a boat and got her off. Found that one wing had been partly shot off. So she's in a zoo in the southern part of the United States now.
Even when they're badly injured, there are often happy endings. I mean, she's living a
lot of them do adjust to captivity. It takes a while, but they can adjust. This is a picture of a gunshot wound to the head of a red-tailed hawk, and when it's this kind of injury, there's not much to do. This bird died. The next picture is kind of a funny character. It's a red-shouldered hawk, related to the red-tailed hawk.
His head.
A bullet grazed the top of his skull, and he walked around the university for about 4 weeks with his head upside down, but everything else worked. He was able to be released. He got all right, which is unusual for head injuries. This picture is not pretty at all, but it shows what a trap can do.
It's a bird lying on its back. Is that its foot?
That's right. It's his right leg and foot. It's a red-tailed hawk on his back. This bird is only a little over a week out of a trap. And unfortunately, if traps are not baited properly and aren't hidden properly, a lot of other things can get caught in them that shouldn't be caught.
There's a lot of
What kind of bait might this bird have gone after when you say it was perhaps improperly baited? What had they used, do you think?
That's hard to say. I don't know enough about trapping myself to know what they're baited with, but any kind of meat that looks edible to a bird of prey, they'll go after without thinking of it necessarily being attached to a trap. This is a snowy owl that was caught in a trap in southern Minnesota, but it didn't have a bad injury. Only one toe got caught, and he was able to be released. You can see how much difference there is between that other slide and this one.
What would the real size be of that snowy owl?
About the size of the great horned owl.
Oh, yes?
Which would be how large a wing spread?
About 3.5 feet.
Well, is that a bald eagle?
It's a bald eagle on a surgery table at the university. Another trap injury, but this one turned out great too. They worked on him for 3 months, getting that leg injury back to normal. They released him in Wisconsin and found the following spring that he was nesting and raising young.
They knew it was that one?
Yes, they color marked the tail.
That's super.
And this is Strix, a bird that you'll see in a few minutes. It's a barred owl, and I like this slide because it pretty much says a lot of what I try to get across. These birds are very important to us ecology-wise and to the food chain of the natural environment.
They're important to farmers, certainly, the rodent hunting they do. And again, if somebody comes across an injured bird like this that they have not injured, or if someone accidentally injures one, the main concern that the authorities have is saving the bird's life. They will not try to prosecute you. Get help for it.
It depends on the situation, but for instance, eagles is a little bit more of a situation that they have to handle. But help the critter first, right?
We'll be back visiting with Barb Walker and talking about some of the other things, including World Day for Animals. Chef Meadows, however, is coming up right after this. Don't go away. Who, as we indicated to you, formerly was with the Humane Society, their educational director, and is now becoming educational director of the Barbara Walker Society. So yes, indeed. So we said that we would give a phone number in case people would like to get in touch with you. What is that, Barb?
Right. It's 489-6151.
And I will, by the way, have that number here at WTCN. Barb is available to come to your group and show her slides, bring her birds. It's an exciting thing for children to see.
So tell us about this beautiful animal here behind us.
This is a barred owl. His name is Strix. I've had him for 4.5 years. When he was a baby, he got caught by a dog. And he went through 2 major surgeries in trying to save the left wing. He's minus a wing. He only has his right wing. It's hard to tell because he's got so much fluffy down that it kind of covers up the space where the wing would be. But eventually the wing bones died and it had to be amputated. I force-fed him for 6 weeks just to keep him alive. So I'm really the only one that can handle him at all.
I was surprised when you told me how much he weighs because it seems to be very big.
That's right. They don't weigh as much as they look like they do. A full-grown eagle can weigh from 8 to 14 pounds, depending on whether it's a male or a female. The females are larger. My great horned owl weighs about 3.5 pounds, and Strix doesn't look that much smaller, but he is, body-wise, he only weighs 1 pound 10 ounces compared to Bubo. He's all feathers. He's got just an unbelievable padding of feathers.
You own 2 kinds of owls. How many species of owls are there? Any idea?
Well, there are probably, all over the world. I haven't got that in my head, but there's over 300 all over the world. We've probably got 6 or 7 different kinds of owls that live in Minnesota.
Do we? This magnificent creature on your arm, what is she?
This is a red-tailed hawk, and an adult bird has a red tail. That's why they're so identifiable. An immature bird has dark brown banded tail, so sometimes it makes it harder to identify them. This is the hawk that sometimes is called the chicken hawk, which is a nasty term for it. They do occasionally, along with the great horned owl, get into poultry yards. Not as often as people think they do. Their main prey is rabbits and other types of rodents, so they're really very beneficial to the farmer. And if you go out on a open road almost any day, if you're looking, you can spot a red tail soaring over a field. That's how they hunt, and it's beautiful to watch them.
Oh, I noticed you do have the precaution of a leather glove here to handle
this.
That's
right. Their feet are quite big, and her talons are sharp and quite large. And
talons meaning?
Nails.
Okay.
If I didn't have a glove on, first of all, she would be uncomfortable because she wouldn't be able to have a good grip on something, and I'd be uncomfortable because her talons would be going.
She'd have a good grip of your flesh.
Would you be kind enough, dear bird, to look right over there at our camera? Oh, there. She sort of does, doesn't she? Barb, she is permanently, look at that. She's permanently in residence at the University of Minnesota. She will never go free. Why? Because
when she was just a young bird, not much more than out of the nest, she was taken by some people and her wings were pinioned, which is, actually the wings were cut off. The ends of the wings were cut off. She has no hand bones, the bones that have the primary feathers that are the major flight feathers. It doesn't show, but they are gone, and she'll never be able to fly.
Isn't that too bad? Barb, one of the things that Warren mentioned is World Day for Animals. World Day for Animals is actually Tuesday, October 4th. Rosedale has a 4-day celebration going on. There are something over 15 animal organizations that will be present with booths and information, and about 35 to 40 stage presentations free throughout the 4 days, and you're doing dozens of them yourself.
I'll be emceeing most of the presentations and giving presentations myself. The birds will be out at Rosedale Shopping Center.
What else will be there? What else will you have there?
Well, I'll have Pogo, my opossum, and Kazan, my dog. A lot of people know the 2 of them.
Yes.
And some of my parrots.
Yes.
Poncho.
This is all free, is that right, Tom?
This is all free, definitely, and anyone's welcome to come out and go through the mall area where everything will be going on in full view. It'll be going on the whole time the mall is open, from 9:30 to 6 on Saturday, 12 to 6 on Sunday, and 9:30 to 9:30 Monday and Tuesday.
You know, we were talking about some of the unusual. I did not know that the bald eagle mates for life.
Most birds of prey do.
Do they?
Yeah, especially the larger ones, the eagles especially. They find a mate and they're mated for life. They stay together.
And how long are their young with them?
Probably about 3 or 4 months.
Warren, you had an interesting experience with an eagle's nest. I've never seen one.
Well, this was a bald eagle's nest that I've seen several of them, but this particular one had been knocked down during a storm, and it was just gigantic. We were comparing it to half the size of our set here, I think, perhaps at least 12 feet in diameter, and perhaps 2 to almost 3 feet thick.
Made out of what?
Well, good-sized branches, as large as your arm in diameter, and it was really a massive thing. It was hard to believe. It looked like the kind of pile that you might see in a little creek that had been washed down and stuck on some rocks. But these birds, of course, had hauled this up into a tree.
Right, and they add on to their nest every year, and sometimes they get so large that the tree can't handle the nest any longer, and the whole thing comes down, and they have to start over again or find a new nest.
Birds of prey, whales, dolphins, dogs, cats, parakeets, you name it, it will be at World Day for Animals, October 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everything's free at Rosedale. As we told you, Barb Walker's phone number is 489-6151. If you would like to have Barb and any of her many animals come and talk to you or your organization, she's available to do that. Good luck. It was a nice show.
Thank you very much. I sure enjoyed it.
Nice to have you here again. Thanks
Birds
very
were
much.
very good, too.
Weren't they good? You were terrific, Strix.
Our award-winning news director is in rare form today as well, and he'll be along with the latest news right after this word. But his close friends call him Lon.
We're actually on the air, Warren. It's time to be brilliant.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about C.W. Bud Fritz.
Yes.
On the Fernwood Two-Night Show. The guy with the big underbite, you know. He wears that harness.
What is the harness made of?
Rubber bands.
Yeah, and a ping pong ball, right?
Yeah,
here, isn't it?
yeah.
Well, now what is
It's like
his
a little
real
wiffle ball. It keeps his
It's
chin.
the dumbest show. His name is not, what does CW stand for?
Well, that's Carl Wallenda, I think. No, Carl Wallen. But he likes to be known as C.W. Bud Fritz, but that's not his real name.
What is his real name?
Earl.
Why did they call him CW then?
Well, but his close friends actually call him Lon.
I see. Yeah. You see, this is the sort of thing you miss on Fernwood 2 night if you don't watch.
He was dynamite. Well, he's the unofficial goodwill ambassador of Fernwood.
Is he?
Yeah, and the mayor's getting kind of ticked off about it because he doesn't really want him to be the unofficial goodwill ambassador.
I see.
Yeah.
Barth Gimbel is truly a hero of yours, isn't he?
He is. I love him. I really do.
Have you got, now, you know, he always tries to stop the applause when it just gets, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But what you need is a lot of Hawaiian shirts that you wear with open collar.
What I actually really need is a lot of applause. It's pretty tough to do my Barth Gimbel invitation without applause.
I know, but you'll be so brilliant at 11:30 today. When we come back, we'll be talking about a Bing Crosby movie festival and the fact that you're not too old to have a baby. I
That
suppose it
certainly
depends
is
on how old
comforting,
you
isn't
are.
it?
Yes.
I think you may have to wait until we finish everything.
Well, I just want